everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Strategies for Scaling Career Success to Gen Z Students. I am absolutely thrilled to be your host today. Thank you to the Chronicle of Higher Education for providing us with the platform for this really important and timely conversation today. We all know that the landscape of higher education is shifting for Gen Z. Gen Z students aren't just looking for a degree to hang on a wall, they are looking for a clear, actionable path to a career they actually care about. Proving career outcomes is no longer just a nice to have or a nice baseline requirement. It has become a primary strategic differentiator for institutions today. But let's be honest, in higher education, providing these services at scale, balancing tight budgets, rapid AI changes and technology shifts, and a very increasingly competitive market, well, it's a daunting task. My name is Brittany Wampler, and I serve as Kaplan's Director for the All Access license. Today, we're thrilled to have a candid conversation with a panel of higher education leaders who are doing the work on the ground to make career readiness more than just a buzzword. We're going to pull back the curtain on how to bake career preparation naturally into the student journey, how to optimize institutional resources, and how to eliminate the barriers that stall student momentum. To help us map out this blueprint, I am joined by four phenomenal leaders across higher education who represent a beautiful mix of institutional perspectives. Please welcome Patrick, Holly, Jenny, and Debbie. Thank you all so much for being here. Before I kick it over to you, I'd love to launch our very first poll of the day. And we'd love to get a sense of who's joining us from around the country and globe. Our first question is, tell us about what type of institution you represent. We're excited to feature a panel from a variety of institution types, but we'd love to know more about you. So feel free when the button comes up on your screen to answer where you're coming from. I see we've got a lot of community or technical college administrators today, public research, R1, R2s. We've got a good number of private liberal arts colleges. This is great. Thank you so much. Well, before we dive in, I've got just a few housekeeping items to make sure that we are all clear. We have a packed agenda today, and so we're going to be holding audience Q&A at the end, but throughout our session, the Q&A will remain open, and you can feel free at any point in time to drop your questions in that Q&A, and we are hopeful that we will get to as many of those questions as we can by the end of our conversation today. So Patrick, I'm going to turn it over to you first. But let's kick things off with you by setting the stage of some background about each of your schools. Tell me a little bit about your school, and then I'd love to know a little bit about you, your role, and a little more about your institution before we get to our first question around career. Patrick, take it away.
Thank you, Brittany. Hello, everyone. I'm Patrick Jourdain. I'm the Associate Director of Career Education and Advising at Hampden-Sydney College, which is one of 3 all-male colleges left in the nation. We are located in Virginia, and we're founded in 1776. We just celebrated 250 years, and our mission is forming good men and good citizens. What I'm most excited about is welcoming over 300 new students in the fall, looking forward to engaging with them early in their college journey by asking them to complete a career readiness assessment. Thank you, Brittany. I'll turn it over to Holly.
Hello, everybody. My name is Holly Farley, and I am the Interim Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs at Eastern Illinois University. We are a public university in South Central Illinois. We have about 8,000 students, both undergrad and graduate students here on campus. And we are a regional public. We're considered a regional public. And we also have 50% of our student body is first generation. So we are very, excited to discuss strategies and anything, any little nuggets that we can do to make sure that we retain those students and get them through to graduation, which is very exciting. Before I came in this role, I've only been here a year. And before that, I was the chair of the School of Nursing, and I worked closely with Kaplan as when we started that face-to-face program 5 years ago. We took on Kaplan as our um, national licensure exam um, resource. And so we embedded that into all of our classes. And um, I just can't say enough about utilizing real world experience and practice throughout the curriculum. Thank you.
All right, I think I'm next. So, hi everyone. I'm Jenny Neff from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. We are just an hour or so north of Dr. Farley down in Charleston. We are a large R1 public institution enrolling over 60,000 students across bachelor's, master's, and doc programs. Flagship institution in the state. So I just love being part of this conversation with a wide diversity of different kinds of institutions. I think we can all learn from each other and leverage the different opportunities that we have that's individualized to our context. So thank you for having us here. What am I most excited about? We are at year end and we are digging into the data, and we saw over 40,000 students, or we had over 40,000 student interactions through just my career center here on campus in this last academic year. And so our reach is broad and deep. And then I'm also excited about the opportunities that I get to work with our partners in the individual colleges and then be able to complement and supplement the work they are doing through the curricular experience. So that's what I'm excited about, is how it's basically contextualizing and using all of the assets that we have at this institution as it relates to our structure and decentralization. If we figure out a way to use it well, it can be really powerful.
All right, that leaves me. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Debbie Jackson. I serve as Vice Provost of Instructional Excellence at Cleveland State University. Cleveland State University is located in downtown Cleveland, with the lake bordering us on the north and Cleveland Guardians and Browns stadiums to the east, or to the west. Excuse me. We have about 1,400 students. We're a high research two institution. The only thing that's holding us back from becoming a research one is the number of PhD candidates that we graduate. So we're working on increasing that at the moment. We are of Northeast Ohio and serve Northeast Ohio. And the thing that I'm most excited about, I just have to be honest, is we've had 5 days of sun and 70s, which we don't have a lot in Cleveland. So soaking up the weather around Cleveland State, the thing I'm most excited about is we have faculty on campus this week and next week learning about AI in academics as well as work-based learning pathways.
That is wonderful. And you are absolutely right. I too reside just west of the city of Cleveland, and we are soaking up the sun this week. 5 days of really beautiful weather to kick off summer is a dream come true, essentially, for Clevelanders. I also had the privilege of working with Debbie, and I will say, our student body is 14,000 students, not 1,400.
Oh, thank
but
you.
we are a mid-sized regional urban public institution at Cleveland State. Zach, we're going to launch poll number 2. And now that you've all met our panelists, let's hear from our audience with another poll question. So now that we have a good sense of who's here relative to the breadth and depth of our institutional partners, I'd love to hear about where you work. And so we've got a variety here of different areas within higher education administration and faculty roles. It looks like we've got a lot of academic affairs faculty, enrollment, admissions professionals. This is fantastic. And taking the cake so far, we've got our student affairs professionals with career, residence life, advising, and beyond. This is wonderful. I'll go ahead and share those results in just a moment. For our panelists, let's get practical for a moment. I've been privileged enough during my time at Kaplan to host several of these conversations around talking about the evolution of higher education today. And one of the pieces of feedback that I hear over and over again is around taking away practical application from these conversations. So people love to be inspired. Right now, we're at many campuses, Patrick was talking about earlier, we're doing our planning for 26, 27. So I'd love to hear what are some of your wins as far as programming or initiatives are concerned that are bridging the gap between campus and professional life, campus life, and then young professional life. Why don't I turn it over to Debbie first?
Thank you, Brittany, and thank you for correcting my number sense.
I
We do
just
have
happen to know the
14,000.
population of all campuses around the country and those represented today.
Yeah, thank you very much. At Cleveland State University, the win that I want to talk about is inviting employers to campus for input on program design. So about 3 years ago, we initiated a review of our core curriculum, and this is when we started inviting employers in this way, right? And so the faculty committee came up with what we thought all CSU students who graduate should know and be able to do when they leave here, across all programs. So we came up with that list as a faculty committee, and then we invited employers in to say, does this resonate with you? Is this what you want all of your employees to know and be able to do? And so we were able to begin dialogue with the employers in real way, getting real feedback from them, and we have continued that every year. So um, after that, after the core curriculum, we created integrated degrees. So integrated degrees are not dual degrees, but integrating two content areas that make sense. We have 16 of these now at Cleveland State University, and they were developed in partnership with employers. For example, technical sales is an integrated degree that integrates engineering and business. And so students go through that program. That was a need for engineering firms. They need somebody to sell the product who can also talk about the engineering behind the product. So that's just one example. And then next week, we have employers coming in for breakfast and lunch to help us with developing those work-based learning pathways as a part of our talent hub. So what we've done essentially is said to employers, please come to Cleveland State. We'll give you free parking and some food, and you can interact with our faculty, and we'll take your feedback in real ways and integrate those things into our curriculum to ensure that we're meeting the needs of the employers in the area.
Holly, why don't you go next?
Okay, great, thanks. So a little tag on that, we've been working really closely with our employers also. One little kind of, I don't know, I guess a struggle would be that because we're very rural, we don't have a lot of urban opportunities and the job opportunities that we may have if we were more urban. We also, a lot of our students are not from our area. They come from Chicago and the East St. Louis area. So bridging that gap between where they're probably going back to versus where they're learning can be a little bit difficult. One thing that I thought was a really big win this year and was a tough sell was we have a senior general education requirement. We call it senior seminar. It's been around for about 30 years. Honestly, I'm not really sure why we started it. It really isn't giving us any data, on anything. And so we convinced the faculty and the Council on Academic Affairs that it needed to go. And so by eliminating that senior seminar course in our junior and senior years, that opens up the programs to reevaluate their curriculum and put in a capstone some type of practice experiential learning piece to their program. And so that's going to be a huge win for our students. So we're going to need to reach out even more to our companies and everybody to try to get more relationships and try to get those for those students. But we feel like that's going to be the biggest, piece of the struggle coming up in our next round of looking at curriculums is to get buy-in and get those students out there in the workplace so that they're seeing how professionals work and they understand that you have to come to work on time and getting all of those things, and so they see themselves doing what's next and getting ideas on what's next. So I think that's probably our biggest win this year.
Patrick, how about you?
We had two wins this year. First, we offered a masterclass on career readiness for our first-year students and a self-certificate boot camp course for our third and fourth-year students. I have to say that 60% of the first-year students in the masterclass ended up this past year with internships for the summer. And over 75% of our students that participated in the boot camp ended up with either an internship or full-time employment in sales. These two things we've done are something that we plan to continue moving forward because they were such a success and well received by our students and those who helped put it together.
Patrick, tell me again, what was the master class called?
It was a career readiness.
Career readiness in
Career
the first
readiness.
year. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, Jenny, over to you.
All right. Well, mine is somewhat maybe analogous to what Dr. Farley's doing down at Eastern Illinois University. And so we certainly have a lot of employer engagement on our campus from very large employers that have a strong brand, either a consumer brand or national brand. And students are attracted to try to land those opportunities. However, when we look at our destination data, we know that a large percentage of our students are going to work for small to mid-sized employers. So we may have 50 or so organizations that hire 5 or more, but we have 2,000 organizations that may hire 1 graduate. And so, and most of those employers are in the Chicagoland metro area. And so this past year, I added bandwidth to my employer engagement team, and we're starting to work on how do we bridge that gap from campus to the small to mid-sized employer, particularly in Chicagoland, because we know that that's where students land at. We also know that those employers may not offer internships. Like the word internship may be scary to them, or they may think it involves a lot more on their part than it actually does. And so we're really investing in how do we help make this pipeline of talent to small to mid-sized employers more effective for students on how they access it, how they're ready to enter those organizations, and then how do we help those small to mid-sized organizations be ready to receive those students? How do we help them identify their talent needs? And so I see this as not only a win for students, but also a win for the state and how we lean into our mission as our land grant mission of how do we serve the needs of the state and our work around economic development too.
I love that we kicked off so much of our conversation in talking about employers. I think that's so critical to advancing those employer relationships is such a critical piece. And thinking about the small to mid-sized employers too, I think is probably where most students go across most institutions and certainly across within public higher education. That is very common. So I want to center our next question around students. And, we've been having at Kaplan conversations with a lot of our partners and schools lately about how to support student success and how they have more on their plates, it seems now more than ever before, whether it is extracurriculars, on campus, off campus, work experiences, responsibilities to family. It's a real challenge to find, make career education a priority within everything else that a student is carrying today. So I'd love to hear a little bit about how you're integrating career readiness into the student experience more. So it's a natural part of the student journey rather than an afterthought once a student kind of gets to that senior year. Jenny, if it's okay, why don't I ping you to go first?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So I don't know that we are doing anything earth-shattering, I will say. But when I look at this question and think about the kinds of students that are balancing a lot, maybe they're working, maybe they're caring for a family, maybe they're trying to get through school in, 6 semesters or 7 semesters. So they're taking heavy loads. And oftentimes we see those students, they come to us as they get ready to graduate and they start thinking about, their post-graduation job. And we ask them, what have they done? And inevitably they say nothing. And we really have to work with them to say, well, what are you doing besides studying and going to class, studying and going to class and whatnot. And inevitably they'll say, well, I have just this job. I have just a job, either on campus or off campus. And they don't necessarily make meaning out of meaning as it relates to career readiness out of that experience. It's incredibly meaningful to them as they think about how they pay their bills or support families or things like that. But they haven't thought about the longer term meaning of the skills that they're gaining that they could leverage as they pursue a post-graduation opportunity, what they've learned about themselves, what kind of workplace do they want? Where are they going to be able to thrive? What do they value? And so we're really leaning into, also with this added bandwidth on my employer engagement team, is how do we help students make meaning out of their just a jobs? And so we're building out that strategy right now. That also involves some of those small to mid-sized employers where we know students are going to work at just a job on semester breaks and during the summer. So I'm excited about that, to show up in some of these places where students are balancing all of the things that they are balancing.
I can imagine right now a marketing campaign around just that. I love that idea, by the way. Like, how do we make meaning, or how do we give students a growth mindset around the work that they're already doing without them feeling like they're behind when they go meet with their career coach for the first time. I love that idea. And I could see, posters or other ways to embody the growth mindset that everything you're doing already counts. It's just about how to take it to the next level and be able to talk about those transferable but impactful competencies and skills. I love that. Thank you for sharing.
Yes.
Holly, how about you?
Jenny, I'm going to tag on you again, but all I can hear in my head is Bobby Kingery. She's our career services director, and I can just hear her saying, they just don't get it. We've got to start at the very beginning, as soon as they step on campus. So we're piloting this coming year with some of our general education courses, and in conjunction with our general education committee, putting some of the NACE competencies into the syllabi and piloting a group of faculty that are willing to pare down and decide what activities and discussions that they need to include in just random classes, general education, because students are always saying, well, I don't understand why I have to take this. I'm going to be an XYZ and this doesn't apply to me. And so trying to flip the narrative, and from, day one, when they're walking on campus, they're making those connections between what they're learning, even if it's English composition, they may not be writing research papers, but they're going to need to write and communicate. And we do have, again, a lot of first generation students on our campus who don't have, they don't necessarily have professional families, to discuss kind of those things with, or a parent at home saying, hey, it's worth it. I know you don't think you're learning anything, but it's really important that you can write, and things like that. So I agree with her, and we're really going to try to work together to get those NACE competencies and reevaluate what our university learning goals are, and focus more on the end at the very beginning. I think that's really important.
Amazing. Patrick, you already gave a great student-centered example. Do you have another one that you're thinking of?
Well, one thing we're doing with our student workers is incorporating the NACE competencies into their job description, and having their supervisors make sure that they fulfill some of the competencies so they can build their skills. And so far, it's been very successful. And hopefully it will also, because we use it with our PCAs, our peer career advisors, a way to see how their growth and their mindset. So
that's awesome. Debbie,
Thank
how
you.
about you?
Yeah, thanks, Brittany. I We similarly are trying to integrate teaching students to talk about their skills in our inquiry launch class. It's our new in our new core curriculum. It's our new Intro to University Life class that most universities have. So starting with that first class, and then the other thing that we're doing, I mentioned the professional development next week that I'm excited about. We have about 30 full-time faculty are coming to campus to learn about work-based learning and scaffolding the NACE competencies and other things throughout their curriculum. So similar to other institutions, about 40% of our, I assume similar, I could be making an assumption that's wrong, but about 40% of our programs already have work-based learning throughout the curriculum. Teacher education, which is my home department, you can't become a teacher without student teaching, and we have several semesters that the teachers are in schools. And so what we're doing with this work-based learning professional development is helping the programs that traditionally have not had work-based learning in their programs. And I'm going to tell them next week a co-op or internship at the end doesn't count. That's not a pathway, that's an experience, which we do need and is important. But how do we scaffold from the beginning to the end to get students there so that when they leave CSU, they'll be prepared for their jobs? And I think the other piece of that along the way is figuring out what it is they do and don't want to do. So hopefully that's helpful, Brittany.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I love it's like faculty summer camp. I'd love to be a fly on the wall next week. How amazing that even post spring semester that so many faculty want to come back and learn. What a great opportunity. Let's shift the conversation again as we're talking about career readiness initiatives and scaling support for student success. One solution that all of your institutions now offer are free resources for graduate admission tests, licensure, credentials, skills development courses, workforce readiness courses through Kaplan's All Access license that I have the privilege of serving as the director for. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your perspectives about the program, how it's impacting your students. Maybe if you have one, an aha moment where you realized the difference that something like this could make on your student body. And to kick us off, Patrick, why don't you start? You are one of our newest All Access partners. And so I'd love to hear some early findings and early aha moments from you.
Okay. Well, through our partnership with Kaplan All Access License, we've been able to remove one of the biggest barriers students face when preparing for graduate and admission and career readiness, which is course. And the aha moment came when we saw students who had never imagined themselves as competitive applicants begin to identify as future professionals. One student who took the Securities Industry Essentials course was able to land a coveted spot at a financial firm because he had that experience.
That's
Thank you.
fantastic. Thank you. Holly, how about you?
So I mentioned that I was in nursing before I came to this role, and we already were using Kaplan and the seniors. I mean, it'd be embedded throughout the whole program, but the seniors get what we get in the all access. They already were getting that. And so I knew a lot about Kaplan. I knew how wonderful it was for nursing, but I couldn't quite wrap my mind around how we were going to use it across the campus. And I guess my aha moment was I was talking with our pre-health advisor, and right when we found out that this was going to happen, and she had a whole list of questions and she had all these plans, and I was like, wow, you're really excited about this. She said, we don't have anything but free resources for our students, and the resources are really expensive. They simply cannot afford it. And I was like, wow, we're really fortunate in Illinois to be able to participate in this program because it's making a difference in students' lives.
Absolutely. Thank you. Debbie?
Yeah, I'll just reiterate, it's the cost savings to the students, right? At Cleveland State University, we are located in downtown Cleveland. A lot of our students come from Cleveland and stay in Cleveland or Northeast Ohio. And we have a lot of first generation students, similar to Holly, a lot of students that qualify for Pell. And so they they simply can't afford, right, to have these resources. And so I think my aha moment, in addition to the cost savings, was just the breadth and depth of resources that Kaplan offers our students. So it's not just nursing, it's not just engineering, it's career readiness, it's the whole gamut of resources that are available to our students. And so my hope in the coming years, one of my goals is to increase the use of our materials in the curriculum, right? Have faculty using those things more often than they currently are in particular programs.
That's great, Debbie. Thank you.
Mhm.
I think, and Jenny, I will call on you in just a moment. One of the things that I want to mention is when we talk about the breadth and depth of courses, I mentioned just really as a cursory overview what types of courses would be free. And Patrick, thank you for mentioning, and Holly, thank you for mentioning nursing and security industry essentials, which is under our business courses. But this is to the tune of free live support for MCAT prep, LSAT prep, GRE. We're talking about project management, fundamentals of engineering, praxis, nursing. And I mean, really, the list goes on and on. And one of the areas that I'm personally very passionate about from my 20 years of working in higher education and now here being at Kaplan is career readiness. And we have a suite of courses that are really just around skills development in terms of career and career preparation. So, a data literacy course, a data analysis course, math and Python fundamentals. And one of my favorites is our Confident New Hire course, which I look at as every college graduate's kind of parting gift because it is a year of access for students to learn about that transition from being a college student, college graduate to being a young professional. And that really is not just for undergraduate students, but that transcends into graduate and professional students too that could benefit from that. Jenny, you are the flagship of the state of Illinois. I would love to hear about impact at the University of Illinois.
Yeah, so I guess I'm going to underscore this idea of cost savings with the big number here. So it's Kaplan All Access has resulted in over $12 million in savings for University of Illinois students in about what, 16 months, Brittany, I think.
16 months.
16
We
months.
started the launch process in the state of Illinois, and we have 17 institutions that receive this benefit, 12 public four-year institutions, and a pilot program with up to 5 community colleges across the state, too. And $12 million at one school is unbelievable. And those are dollars that students would otherwise have had to pay out of pocket for test prep or licensure prep, or that they wouldn't have, thought to utilize resources from the jump to get those credentials that might help them in the job search.
Yeah. And I want to add, I guess it's beyond the dollars. And to answer the second part of that question, like what was my aha moment? Again, talking to my pre-health advisors here on campus, as well as pre-law advising, knowing that the resources are available anytime that a student needs them. And so it allows for some intentional and strategic planning on when do I need or want to sit for the MCAT, the LSAT, the GRE, and then students can work with their advisors to think about when are they going to study, when do they want to engage in the Kaplan course, how does that align with their other coursework that they're taking, and so it becomes a more strategic, the preparation and the use of the Kaplan assets becomes a more strategic and planful use, and rather than an afterthought of, oh, maybe I do need to carve out some time to practice for this, or sometimes students aren't aware how challenging these exams are or that they need these credentials. And so I love that we can embed it in holistic conversations with students about how they build their entire experience here to be ready for whatever is next.
I couldn't agree more. I spent about a decade of my career supporting pre-professional students, and it really is, you know, it is twofold. Providing free test prep does not get a student in to medical, law school. It does not get a student across the finish line to pass that first attempt at the NCLEX. It is advising and coaching and support that all of your institutions offer that lifts up students. And it is, providing an equal playing field for students to all get access to the same level of private test prep or same level of licensure prep than other students would otherwise have or not have. Let's launch the next poll, Zach, if you will. I want to shift gears yet again. And our third question is really about preparing students for the future of work. And something I've been thinking a lot about is the World Economic Forum. They've recently published their core skill set for 2030 and what they are expected, what skills are expected today for new hires and for employees. And so I would be curious about how this audience might rank order what have risen to the top around different skill sets. And I can already see AI is coming up, resilience and flexibility, agility. All of this is coming up. Analytical and creative thinking, curiosity, lifelong learning. Thank you so much for all of your feedback, everyone. We'll go ahead and share it in just a moment. But over to the panel, I'd love to take a similar approach. When we think about preparing students for careers and for the future of work, considering the rapid pace of change in the world today, especially with AI and other technologies, how are you focusing on what skills graduates need for the future? And how are you preparing students for jobs that might not even exist today? Debbie, I know that you have a really keen interest also in the technology space. So why don't you take this one first?
Sure, thanks, Brittany. So at Cleveland State, we are, as I mentioned in my answer to one of the other questions, working closely with employers and trying to keep our finger on the pulse of what's happening outside our university walls. I mentioned also that we have faculty on campus this week talking about AI and talking about how to build assessments that aren't AI proof. It's not an AI proof situation, but how can we design assessments that assess our learning outcomes, right? With students being able to use whatever tools make sense for the learning outcome. So I think keeping in touch with employers, making sure to provide experiences for faculty to learn as well. I think we're at a very interesting place with technology right now that we may not have ever been at before, where our students are learning this thing at the same time that we are, and we're expected to teach them about it, right? So I think that's an interesting space to be in, particularly related to AI. So I think all of those things are going to help us prepare students for jobs that we don't know what they're going to be. I think the other piece is the critical thinking and creativity. There are things that are outside of what AI is capable of doing right now, and probably in the future. There are some human things that, a computer can't do. Hopefully that's correct, or else I'm a little bit scared. So I think focusing on those things as well, to make sure that when our students leave here, they're ready for the jobs that exist.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Does anyone else want to jump in? Jenny, maybe?
Sure. So I think we have to focus on what I call the big abilities, the things that have always been part of education, certainly part of general education. And we need to help students understand that their experiences in college their experiences and what they're learning is helping them be prepared for any time and any context that they may engage with over the course of their lifetime. We're going to need students who are resilient and critical thinkers. I think in this era that we're embarking on, we need increasingly more humanistic skills. Like we can't let the technology destroy humanity. I don't believe that, but I mean, there are those concerns out there. I think back to probably 15, maybe 20 years ago, and there was this sort of model of the T-shaped professional, sort of some breadth across the top, but a lot of depth in some core technical areas or core technical expertise. And I think the top of that T is probably wider now than the depth of the stick that the top stands on. So I think it's going to be these big skills that transcend time, that transcend fields, that society is going to need.
I love that. Thank you. Patrick, how about you?
Well, what I like about All Access is it provides a wide range of learning resources that will help students with their professional skills and will better prepare them for academic and career success. Our goal here at Hampden-Sydney is to be able to prepare students to be able to adapt, understand new information, and keep going through these changes so that they can succeed in the future jobs, even if these jobs don't exist. Just giving them all that they need to just flourish on their own and using AI if need be, but focusing on their mind and their own personal growth.
Oh,
Thank
I
you.
love that. Thank you. Dr. Farley, anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I would just like to say that I think a big struggle that we're seeing on our campus is faculty moving from the space of we're worried about cheating to now we need to utilize AI to teach. So
Mhm.
we, get away from just the cheating. But we are going to do a pilot with some faculty to revamp some classes to integrate AI into those classes. And hopefully they can be champions for that. So we don't know what the future is going to look like, but they need to have skills to be able to be flexible and adapt. And so if they're not using the technology in their classes while they're here, then they're not going to be prepared no matter where AI goes. They need to at least have basic knowledge of how to use it. And so I think it's really important that we begin to look at how can we use it to really give them the experiences that they need and by doing activities and using it on a daily basis here so that they're ready to go and they'll be flexible and be able to utilize that in the real world.
That's great. I'm very excited. This seldom happens in conversations that I lead, but we are going to have time, friends, for Q&A today. And so I'm going to pivot. And so I want to structure our Q&A today. We've got a ton of questions that have come through. So thank you to our audience so much for all of your robust questions. So here's what I'm going to do. We are not going to all have to answer every question, so you are welcome to pass, but we're going to try to move through as many questions as we possibly can over the course of the next about 17 minutes that we have. Not that I'm counting. I am. I am definitely counting. I'm hosting a webinar, so I must. Let me just say very quickly, one of the courses that we just are launching right now is AI Fundamentals. And I just had the privilege of being one of the AI Fundamentals testers. I don't know that I get like a badge or certificate because I'm an internal tester, but the course was amazing. And you're actually using AI as your learning platform. And that's something that'll be coming up and coming in future conversations with partners. But it was amazing to feel like I am chatting with AI, but the goal of the course was actually moving through the learning objectives based on what my responses were. So A plus all around for that. And one of the things that we talked about is faculty buy-in. So I want to address that and one of our questions that came in. So first and foremost, the question is, faculty buy-in on new initiatives is not often something that is a speedy or positive result. So, what are your success stories when it comes to uh, seeing academic departments and career services collaborate among faculty to embed either professional skills or embed a new initiative on campus? Does anybody have a good example that they want to jump in here?
I can jump in first.
That would be great.
So I want to talk about two things, and one overlaps the other. One is I mentioned the professional development for faculty in the summer. We pay them a small stipend. So we pay them a small stipend to come to CSU for a week and learn, and then we pay them again at the end of the summer when they produce a product. So
I love this.
for next week, we're going to pay them to come for this. We're setting up a new talent hub that's going to facilitate this professional development. We're going to pay them to come, and then in the fall, they are going to submit work-based learning pathways to their faculty and go through faculty governance so that in fall of 27, we have work-based learning pathways throughout so that's work-based learning experiences throughout the curriculum in place for students to enroll in. And what we've done is we've taken the folks who want to come, right? They want to come, they want to do the work. The stipend is very small. It's only $500, so we're not, paying them, we're not maxing out their summer salary or anything like that. But these are the folks who want to do the work, and then we have them do the work, build something amazing, other people see it, and then it flourishes from there. That's what we did with our integrated degrees that I spoke about earlier. And then the second thing is we are a part of the National Student Experience Project. I don't know if other universities on the call are also a part of that, but what that is basically time for faculty to meet together to talk about their teaching. And so we have interdisciplinary groups of folks who meet once a week and talk about their teaching. And there's also an action research component, so it's deeper than just talking about their teaching. But I think providing an opportunity for time for those conversations across disciplinary boundaries has increased that type of work at CSU.
That's amazing. Does anyone else want to jump in before I jump to our next question?
Well, one of the things we have at our college is an experiential learning requirement. You can either do that within a class or you can do that through an internship. If you do it through an internship, you get some financial backing for the student. Also, the professors or faculties who choose to do the class get a small stipend. But the whole purpose is for the internship class is for them to have the students do a reflection of what they've learned. And some of the faculty have incorporated the NACE competencies into their reflection. So when students are writing their reflection about their internship, they can say what they've learned and what they're working towards, which we find to be very important to prepare them for the future.
Yep.
And having the buy-in from faculty is really important.
That's great. More faculty champions, more faculty who are already bought in. It really is like once there is energy around something, there is more energy. And once we can build some positivity, it catches. And that was a strategy I used working with students, working with administrators, working with faculty throughout my career. It also works over here at Kaplan too. If I'm excited about something, an initiative, something that we're working on, other people are going to get excited. It's really about creating a culture that embraces forward momentum. These are great examples. I'm gonna switch topics. So the next question is around data and measuring ROI. So how do we measure the impact or relationship between initiatives and retention, initiatives, time to graduation, and financial return on investment, both short-term and long-term? This might be thinking through first destination reporting. This might be through thinking about how your office's teams are telling a story with your data. Does anyone want to jump in? Otherwise, I'd really love to hear Jenny's perspective on this because I know career offices and larger careers, centralized career offices typically do a lot of data measurement. And so I think that would it'd be great to hear about that.
All right, I'll jump in if nobody
Thanks,
else can
Jenny.
go. Yeah. So, you're right. We do a lot of assessment. I mentioned how we're already using some first destination data to identify where do we need to build relationships with these employers that are hiring students. So the small to mid-sized employers. We just we just took the entire last year to assess and redesign what our career education learning outcomes are as it's associated with all of the services, programs, and resources that are associated with the Career Center. And so we did that by asking we started that project by asking students in the last academic year, what did they expect to learn when they engaged with us? And we took all of that data. We had thousands and thousands of responses. And then we were able to see um, where are we delivering what they expect and where are we not? And then we took that data and then used our own professional judgment to think about, are these the things that students also need, not just what they think they need or what they want. And so now this next year, we're going to be assessing against, we're going to be redesigning some of our programs and services and then assessing against those newly defined learning objectives that we are that we have deployed in this past year. I
I've got
think,
a follow-up question if you're
yeah,
open to it. So my
yeah.
follow-up question is, are you working with a more centralized data office to support sorting and going through the data? How do you have an in-office data or assessment professional? What does that look like at a flagship institution of your size?
Yeah, yes and no. Some of both, I guess, is a better way to say that. Within my pillar of student affairs, I do have a data expert that helps us connect our data to the campus student information system. So that way we can connect it to demographic data, academic data, things like that. One of my associate directors is responsible for assessment in the shop, and then we have one dedicated professional who mostly does first destination, but then we've had two doctoral students this past year helping us dig in to do this data and assessment work. And so both, maybe, to answer your question, Brittany.
All the help we can get.
All the help we can get. And I will say that the doctoral students that we've had on our team in the last 2 years have been critical in our ability to move these ideas forward. And so super talented students that help us get the job done.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Does anyone else want to jump in around data? Okay, I've got another good question coming. So, next question, and then I'm going to move to the last question of the day. But the next question is, for someone who is looking to establish relationships with companies who may offer internships or employment opportunities, what is the path forward? And I will add an addendum onto that. What is the path forward if there is not a professional who is tasked with that role?
Mm.
Mm.
Patrick, I'm going to throw it over to you to start. And then Debbie, I saw you came off mute too.
Well, we believe we have a lot of alumni. We're ranked number 2 in the country for alumni relations, and our alumni love to engage with students. So anytime we have an opportunity to bring an alumni on and have them do a panel or one-on-one with students, whether or not they can hire those students, they have friends in other fields or industries. And having that is very important. And it's basically just building those relationships with those alums and with their company. And that kind of builds a little network. I was interested in insurance, and I ended up working for an alum up in New York City when I graduated from Hampden-Sydney. So our alumni network really works, but building that relationship is key.
Yeah.
And getting alumni to let their companies know what these students offer and have them bring down their HR or some representative of the company when we do have a career fair, just to introduce these students to these opportunities.
Wonderful. And that tie-in of career to alumni relations is also such a great opportunity to expand professional reach. Debbie, what were you going to say?
I was just going to echo the inviting those folks to career fairs is a great way for them to get in front of students and offer internships. A career fair doesn't just have to be for your first job, your first 40-hour week out of school job, right? It could be for a co-op or internship. So utilizing those and then also making connections from the industry folks to the faculty, and whether it's dean, department chair, faculty, kind of depends on who's where. But just figuring out how to facilitate those conversations and get them engaged and give them a good experience.
Wonderful. Okay, we've only got about 5 minutes remaining on the clock. And so I'm going to move into what might be my favorite final question of our webinar. I love posing this question to higher education leaders each and every time I get the privilege of leading these conversations. And so let's finish by peeking into the future. As we move forward, if you want to think about 5 years from today, what do you think is higher education's biggest opportunity when it comes to student success? And we're going to go around the horn. Patrick, if you want to kick us off, I would love to hear from you.
I believe 5 years moving away from one-size-fits-all degree model to an adaptive, skill-transparent, student-centered ecosystem, which means moving away from a rigid, standardized college degree towards a flexible, personalized system that clearly shows what skills students actually have and adapt to their goals in the job market.
I love it. Jenny, how about you?
Yeah, I'm going to tap right in on that.
I love it.
We have got to tap into what motivations students come with, they bring to campuses. And I echo Patrick's comments that we may have to rethink what we offer students so that it is aligned with their motivation and the way they integrate, how they pursue post-secondary education with the rest of their life.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Holly.
I think that we are going to see, to some faculty's dismay, opportunities to streamline our curriculums, but they're going to remove lots of fluff, is what I like to call it. Lots of electives that really are fun to take, maybe, but add a lot of credits onto their degree that isn't necessary. And so I really feel that streamlining and producing generalists that are flexible and can move into the work world and be ready to go because they know how to learn and they know how to pivot when they need to. I think that we're going to have to focus on that.
Yeah, and I would just say 5 years from now, I envision higher ed will be more amazing than it already is. And in leveraging the resources that are inside and outside of the university, right? Busting open the doors, letting folks in, taking folks' feedback, making changes, being more, I'll use words that have been used already, but being much more flexible, much more responsive to students and the folks who are hiring them.
I love it. I'm going to answer this question today too, because we've got a minute. And I'm going to close us by saying two things. One, every single higher education institution, regardless of a population of 60,000 to a population of less than 1,000, is mission driven. And I strongly believe that when we operate in an echo chamber of our mission, we are only reaching those in the chamber with us. And I would love to propose over the next 5 years, and I think the national associations are doing an outstanding job of doing this, but moving beyond individual institution competitiveness to broad PR strategy that embraces the mission of higher education today and really sells the return on investment and value proposition that higher education was created for, is today, and will be for the future. And that is creating the success stories of our future generations to come. And I strongly feel that my mission, whether I was a Kent State University young professional in a graduate assistantship, or 25 years later today standing here and being able to lead this all access program on behalf of Kaplan, I feel my mission has not changed. Student success is always my North Star in driving these conversations, driving my partnership with all of you. And I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you. I'm so grateful for each of you and how you drive this program forward and make it available to your students, how you are cheerleaders for all access. But it's not just cheerleading for all access, right? It's cheerleading for the mission, and that is creating the success stories for our students for the future. It's my privilege to do this work alongside you and next to you and down the street from you. And I look forward to the next conversation that we get to share. Thank you, Chronicle of Higher Education, for being the platform for this conversation today. Zach and your team, you are always wonderful to work with. For the team at Kaplan that puts these together, Christine, Amelia, Julia, and myself. And then to each of you, Patrick, Holly, Debbie, and Jenny. Today's conversation was robust. There are so many notes that I have and takeaways that I have, and I hope that our audience feels exactly the same. Have a great afternoon, everyone, and thank you for your time today.